Hey, what's up, guys? It's LeVar Arrington here from Up on Game. Wanted to talk to you about a serious issue, hate. You know, something personal that I have experienced and witnessed and watched is how the hate in our country is getting so out of control. It's at an all-time high, and people are facing way too much hate. And a lot of people don't think it's a problem, but I do. I can recall growing up, being in high school, one of my high school teammates, good dude, too, just happened to wear a shirt that was a derogatory shirt towards my racial group. It depicted Malcolm X moments after he was assassinated, and it just made me feel really, really sad. It made me feel upset and so many other emotions, and it's really because we're supposed to be a team. But it's going to take all of us to stop that sort of hate. As I mentioned, we are a team in this country, so let's take a break from hate so our team can regroup and regain our momentum. We need to take a timeout against hate. Visit standuptoallhate.org to help, and join me in calling for a timeout against hate by following at What's Up With Hate or posting the blue square emoji.
From the Delta Sky Club,
welcome back, Miss Klein,
to the Jet Bridge, Delta Airlines relies on 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to power operations and serve customers faster. Together, we're putting 5G into the hands of ground staff so they can better assist on-the-go travelers with real-time information throughout the airport. This is elevating customer experience. This is Delta Airlines with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. So glad you could be with us once again. It's a rainy day in Bergen County. I don't mind telling you that. It started yesterday, actually later in the day, and has continued throughout. Sometimes a mist, sometimes a little heavier, sometimes just a drizzle, but dreary. And to be frank, folks, that kind of describes the atmosphere around here these days anyway. Paul Dottino along with Matt Citak. If you didn't catch word within the last hour or so, John Mara, the Giants co-owner, released a statement that Daniel Jones had come in this morning, asked him for his release. The Giants granted it. They felt that it was best for everybody. Daniel, again, was the one who came in and requested this procedure. And that's where it stands. He is now an unrestricted free agent, free to sign wherever he chooses. And
he has to go through waivers first, technically.
Yes, but he'll pass through waivers because if a team picks him up through waivers, they have to pick up every part of his contract.
Yes.
And that's not going to happen.
So Monday he can
So
sign.
yes, I defer. Thank you for the technicality. But he will wind up being a free agent and free to sign wherever he chooses. As for what's going to happen this weekend against Tampa Bay, we do know that Tommy DeVito is the starting quarterback. Beyond that, we know that Drew Lock is the number 2, and whether or not they activate Tim Boyle from the practice squad as the 3 remains to be seen. Brian Dable would not indicate as much. All he would say is that they're going to talk about it later on today after practice. Kayvon Thibodeau appears to be on track after the wrist surgery to play in this game. Darius Slayton is out of concussion protocol, has been practicing. There's no reason to expect him not to play. And we do know that Malik Neighbors was out in uniform at practice today, but during the open portion was not doing anything with the team. That's where it stands.
Yeah, that's where it stands.
So I mean, hey, onward and upward. The Giants have to face a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that has lost 4 in a row, that is fighting for every playoff breath within their lungs. They badly need this game. Baker Mayfield is having a pretty good season once again. I mean, he's resuscitated his career, okay? Sterling Shepard's coming back home, and I expect that the fans are going to want to see him and probably give him a nice ovation, and deservedly so, okay? And we're going to see what happens on Sunday. So that's where it is. It's the Salute to Service weekend also, remember?
Yep.
Okay, so that's also something to remember. We just had Veterans Day last week, so we certainly always want to keep our troops and those who have fallen in mind at all times. Our phone number is 201-939-4513 if you'd like to talk to us. We can talk about the news today if you like, but I don't know that there's really much to add. It is what it is, and the Giants are getting ready to play a game. They've got 7 games left. I could tell you folks, I've been talking to the staff, as Matt has. We've been out there today with the assistants. These guys are busting their butts. They're doing everything they can possibly do to find a way to turn this thing around. This locker room is unified. Brian Dable said he spoke to them this morning before a quick walkthrough and informed them of what was happening today. They know what's going on. Dable said they are very focused. We can see that by their demeanor in the locker room as well as their demeanor out on the practice field. They're going to try to win, Matt. I mean, there's for anyone out there who doesn't think they're not going to try or thinks they will not try, you're wrong. They're going to try to win, and they're going to try to get as many as they can over these last 7 games. I don't know how many they will get, but they're going to give it everything they got.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been steadfast about this all season.
And it hasn't changed.
Nothing has changed until the Week 18 game against the Philadelphia Eagles is over. This team is going to continue to try to win every single time they step onto the field. And frankly, that is what you want your team to be doing, even in a season that, is not going as anyone would have hoped. You never give up. You still try to win because you want to build. I don't know, momentum is not the right word, but you want to get like the rookies, the young players used to winning football games and like what it takes to win a football game. The Giants have lost a good number of close 1-possession games this season that, could have gone the other way, but they didn't because of certain things, certain plays. And so you want these young guys, the young core that primarily will be the core next year as well, to get used to winning football culture. So they're going to keep trying to win as they should. The one thing I will just say about the Daniel Jones situation, because I have to assume that many of our calls today will be about that news. It's been a long week for us even here with all of this news. I get that over the last few years, Daniel Jones has been somewhat polarizing to some people, but all I can say is that my first season was 2019, Daniel Jones' rookie season. I'm not going to say we started together, but we came into the building around the same time, and I have seen him do nothing but be just pure class and give everything he had to this franchise. And so I understand some people, might be happy to see Daniel go. All I can say is the human element of it. He's such a good guy, and I wish him nothing but the best. I truly hope wherever he lands next, he crushes it and he becomes the quarterback that, we all wished he would have been here.
I will not only second and third that, but personally speaking, he's one of the real joys that I've had to work around during my 42 years of doing this. And I will root for him every step of the way because he will resurface in this league and he will do well. I feel very confident in saying that. All right, as far as this game goes, Tommy DeVito, there is one thing I want to mention because there's been some guys nicked up on this Buccaneers starting lineup, but there are 2 of note that could be of interest to Tommy DeVito. That's in the secondary. Tyke Smith, their nickelback, has a sore knee and has not practiced through the early portion of the week. We're waiting to hear what happens to him today, Matt. And that could be important because as the nickelback, he goes against Wan'Dale Robinson, who we know is one of the Giants' offensive scheme's key players. No matter who the quarterback is, Robinson's going to be a key to their scheme. We also know that Zion McCollum, who is their left corner, Okay, now, again, depends on how the Giants want to line it up, but the left corner goes against your right side wide receiver. Remains to be seen what the Giants want to do with that. You know, are we going to see more of Hyatt after what he did in Carolina? We might. And they could play him anywhere. So we don't know. Or is it going to be Slayton? We don't know the answer to that. But that guy's been down. McCollum's been down with a hamstring. And so 2/5, if you consider the nickelback a starter, 2/5 of their starting secondary is gimpy at very least and may not even be able to play in the game. We don't know that yet.
However, it looks like they might get Jamel Dean back, who is typically their starting quarterback. He's been on injured reserve the last 4 games. He returned to practice, I believe, on Monday. They designated him for return, and the last 2 days he's been a full participant, which puts him, in line to probably be activated. Sort of similar situation to Kayvon. You never know, but if you've been practicing in full Wednesday and Thursday, we'll see what today is. There's I would say a good chance that he's back.
Chances are he'd be on limited snap count, I would think, as they ramp him up. I don't think he gets
That's probably true because he's coming back from a hamstring injury. And, when we see guys come back from a hamstring injury, they don't just 100% go back to 100%
Have you seen the weather for Sunday? Is it going to be cold and damp?
I believe it's supposed to be like 50 and sunny.
Well, that's not too bad. Now, it's cold for Florida people, though.
That is true. For us, we will take 50 and sunny in late November.
We will. The folks in Tampa, I don't know how they feel about that, though. But the point being that this Tampa defense, they're giving up, 27 points a game, which ranks 27th in the National Football League. And they've had an awful lot of trouble defending the pass. They are 30th in the NFL, giving up over 260 yards a game through the air. So, Tommy DeVito, let me just say this, my friend. You have an opportunity, to go against a team that has been rather friendly to quarterbacks. So, and they're gimpy and nicked up in the secondary. Let's see if Tommy could take advantage of those things. 201-939-4513 is our phone number. Pearson, you said there is a huddle up that just went up this week? It's going up today. And that'll obviously preview the game against the Buccaneers.
And a Wan'Dale Robinson interview.
With Wan'Dale Robinson. How about that? See, John was on the ball. He knew that the Bucs secondary could be a little nicked up and wanted to talk to one of the Giants receivers. As a reminder, folks, if you're not watching or listening to this show live, you can catch it on the archive and all of the New York Giants programming on the Giants podcast platforms and all of your favorite podcast and social platforms everywhere. All right, 201-939-4513 is our phone number. Ramon is in Florida, and you are first on the program today. How's it going, Ramon?
I'm doing good. How you doing today?
We're okay.
I have 2 questions. I'm doing good. Are you Paul Dottino, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there was another guy that you used to be with a couple years back, and I had told him that and I don't know if he's listening or he's probably going to hear this. I had told him that Jones was no good, and he said, I don't think so. Well, here we are 6 years later, and the Giants are no longer going to have him on the quarterback. So I want to tell that guy, I told you so. I don't know the guy's name. And
okay.
Two, I think the Giants let Daniel Jones go too easy. They should have told him, no, you're going to sit on that bench, and you're going to watch us, and you're going to watch everybody play. Because us fans paid a lot of money to go see you play, and you suck, and you lose. And now you want to be a little baby and just say, release me.
Ramon, I'll tell you what. I appreciate your phone call, and I appreciate your interest, but there's really no point in going there. You have to understand something, too. The Giants are a respectable, classy organization. And when a player comes to the owner with a request and says, I think this might be better for all involved, the owner considers it and decides, okay, what's the right thing to do? What makes the most sense? And what's the classy and respectful and professional thing to do? And he's not going to sit there and say, well, how can I punish somebody? Or how can I get revenge on somebody? Or how can I make things difficult for somebody? That's not the way it works here. Now, maybe it works that way in other places, and maybe they wouldn't give him the release. I'm not going to speak for any other team. But I know John Mara. I know the family really well. And I know that in his mind, He wanted to make this as pain-free as possible for all involved. Unfortunately, there's no way to get around this hurt. This is hurtful for everybody. But this is what Daniel wanted, and they granted it to him, and now it's time to turn the page and move on. I don't know. Is there anything else that you might want to add to that?
I'm just going to add that, like, from what we've heard from people like Brian Dable, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, Shea Tierney today, all four of them have said that. So Coach Dable announced this move Monday and spoke to the quarterbacks Monday morning. Since then, Daniel Jones has been nothing but an absolute professional, helping Tommy DeVito, breaking down film in the quarterback room, doing everything you would want, a quote-unquote backup quarterback to be doing. However, nonetheless, it goes without saying that it must be this week just a little bit awkward given all of the circumstances around, Daniel Jones has been the starter for 5+ years, and now all of a sudden he's the, third string, fourth string, whatever you want to call it. It's a little awkward. Like, whether or not anyone wants to admit it, it's like the fact. And so when you have a situation like that, what do you benefit from keeping that somewhat awkward feeling for the rest of the season? It does literally nobody any good. And not only that, but Daniel Jones, has an agent who likely represents other players. If other players considering signing with a team that finds out that they wouldn't grant a quarterback in this situation a release and held him hostage, again, who does that benefit? That's just going to come back and hurt the organization in the future. So I have to just strongly disagree with that last caller on that one.
The page has been turned, and it's really time to move on to the next chapter for everybody. 201-939-4513. Chris in Pennsylvania, you're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Matt. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm calling, I just wanted to, like many Giants fans, I was, disappointed in the news. I feel really bad that it really didn't work for Daniel. He was a player that I felt, I think he checks all the blocks in terms of, a team leader, his work ethic. He did all the things, and it was just so frustrating to not really ever see it come together, with the exception of the playoff run there that we had 2 years ago. But I really, as a fan, I really wish him all the best with whatever opportunities may come his way. I did have a question for you, Paul. With respect to this release, because I'm really not a subject matter expert when it comes to the salary cap, what will be the salary cap implications for the team moving forward?
Yeah, next year, in the 2025 season, they would have had to have paid him, in terms of salary, in excess of about $41 million, according to Over the Cap. Now, I'm not going to quote numbers officially, because I don't have the right to quote numbers based on official paperwork upstairs. That's not my jurisdiction. But based on Over the Cap, he would have been paid a salary of about $41 million, for 2025, and that would have been on your cap. But because he was released before June 1st, actually even before the March NFL calendar year, they will now get hit with a $22 million dead cap charge against their salary cap. But they will now have $19 million or so, because that's the remainder between 41 and 22, that they can now use as open cash flow to go out and spend on the rest of their roster.
And one thing I will just add is that the only difference between releasing Daniel Jones today or waiting until, the end of the season to potentially do it is by doing it today, as Paul mentioned, that dead cap hit of whatever the number is, 22, because they cut him today, that number will then apply to the 2025 salary cap. And if they waited till after the season, then the Giants would have had at least the option to designate him as a June 1st cut, which would have then just split the dead cap hit between 2025 and 2026 in half.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've seen the last couple of years, Joe Schoen does not typically do that anyway.
No.
So likely we would have been, facing the same thing, whether it happened today or 3 months from now.
So that's where it stands. And that, again, that was not going to change that 2025 cap situation. As long as they were going to cut him before June 1st, it was not going to change whether it was done in January or February or March. That was not going to change. Now, he was due a roster bonus in March, but now that's not in play because he's not here anymore.
Right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking my call. And
well, thanks for your interest.
We'll see some good football on Sunday.
Appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
201-939-4513. Interestingly enough, when you consider all of the different quarterbacks that have been with this franchise, you know, going back to the days of Charlie Connerly, which your grandpa remembers, I know.
Yep.
My dad remembers Charlie Connerly too. and you think about it, and I didn't count up all of the different Giants starters since Connerly, but maybe I will do that for a future show. And certainly there have been a number of those who never got to start a playoff game. Daniel Jones not only started a playoff game for the Giants, he won one. Brought the Giants from behind in hostile territory, a sold-out stadium in Minnesota that was rocking like crazy for the Vikings. Those people with their hands over their heads and clapping and chanting "Skol," they all thought that Vikings team, as foolish as they might have been, they all thought that was a Super Bowl contender. Now, most of us from the outside knew that their defense, especially their pass defense, was suspect, and we didn't necessarily believe that was the case. We thought the Giants would go in there and upset them, and they did. So Daniel Jones provided one spectacular playoff day for this team, in addition to the fact that he had 9 wins that season, got the team into the playoffs. He was their starting quarterback, had 5 come from behind fourth quarter victories, and again, did it in the playoffs as well. There are a bunch of quarterbacks who have played for this franchise, who have started games for this franchise, who never even had that. So let's make something very clear, okay? Daniel Jones had what was an up and down, inconsistent career for the Giants. It was not all bad or miserable, despite what all of his critics would like to paint it to have been, because that's not true. And I think everyone who experienced the 2022 season enjoyed the living crap out of that season, because that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and Daniel Jones was the guy who authored that.
Yeah, he played a humongous role in that playoff run. And, you know, on the Giants' all-time passing leader list, guess what? Daniel Jones ranks 5th. He's 5th all-time in this franchise's history in passing yards. And he has, among quarterbacks, the all-time leading rusher in this franchise. It's 100 seasons history. So, yeah, look, it clearly didn't end how anyone would have hoped, but that doesn't mean there wasn't plenty of good along the way.
Like most things, you can't just take a thick paintbrush and just use one stroke and say that's the way it was.
The best part of football season? Checking out the post-game stats. Which wideouts scored more than 2 touchdowns? Which QBs threw for less than 350 yards? Think you can pick who will do what before kickoff? Then play Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, select between 2 and 6 players, and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. It's that simple. And for all first-time Pick 6 players, check this out. New customers play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code DK1. That's code DK1 for new customers to play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable. Pick 6 credits. Expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Anyway, John from Staten Island, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hi. First of all, I just wanted to apologize to Matt. Last maybe 2 weeks ago, I had called about Jamie Gillen, and I said that after 3 years, Jamie Gillen is still kicking the ball down the center of the field. I wasn't bad mouthing Jamie Gillen on that. I don't blame him for that. I blame the coaching staff for that. Okay, how a guy practices from April to September and can't kick a ball outside the numbers? I wonder, do they practice that? And the other question I have is, do they practice the backup kicker kicking extra points and field goals? Because we lost the game because we didn't have a backup kicker who could kick an extra point or a field goal. And so I was wondering if they actually practice that every day. But so and I have one more thing I want to talk about.
Go ahead. We'll let you get through it, and then we'll respond.
Okay. The other thing is, as far as, first of all, I think everybody should wish Daniel Jones good luck. I think Carolina Panthers are made for him. They don't have a really good quarterback. I think he can go down there and play. He'll be home. I think it'll be all good for him. I don't think that we could take it. I think it was unfortunate because when he came to the Giants, we had no offensive line, no receivers. The guy was getting killed out there. Eli was getting killed, and certainly nobody thinks Eli Manning was not a good quarterback. Poor Daniel got killed out there. It wasn't Tommy DeVito, and that's what I want to talk about. This is my second point. I want to get off Daniel Jones for a second. Tommy DeVito came to the Giants last year. He was selected. I know he was a free agent, but he was selected by Brian Dable. Brian Dable is a quarterback guru. Well, Tommy, he's a second year in the system. I'm really expecting big things from him on Sunday, or if not this Sunday, in the following games. I want to see big improvement from him, both for his sake, and I want to know that my coaching staff can take a guy who's got some talent and make him into a functional player, because I don't really see it with this coaching staff until this year. I see a big turnaround this year, but until this year, we were not developing players very well. I'm very happy with developing Evan Neal now.
Okay, John, thank you. And we'll take this one at a time. Let's go in reverse.
Well, let me take the first, then you
Sure.
can address the second.
Oh, sure.
I do remember your call, John, and I didn't necessarily think you were, bad-mouthing Jamie Gillen. I just wanted to put the stats out there that, he actually is having a pretty good season this year. Just the way that it was put 2 weeks ago, it made it sound like he was having like a poor season when, in fact, he's having one of the best seasons of his career. That's all I was pointing out. In terms of the backup kickers practicing, again, we are not at practice during the regular season. Once training camp is over, that ends our time being able to go to practice other than a short 10, 15-minute window. I am sure that there is some practice time devoted to, having the backup kicker, in this case, Jamie Gillen, practice field goals. I don't know if it's every single day, but I'm sure there is some practice, because it was only 2 years ago where it was a similar situation. Jamie Gillen had to go in and kick a field goal, and he drilled a field goal. I believe, what was it, the Packers game in London?
Mm-hmm.
And he drilled like a 35, 40-yard field goal. So I know when it happened this instance, he missed, an extra point he missed, and then they didn't even try again. But again, I'm sure that is something that is practiced in some capacity. I can't speak to if it's every single day, if it's once a week, once a month, that I don't know. But these teams, every NFL team across the league, practices just about any and every situation you could think of, preparing for if, a 1 million situation happens during a game, to make sure they are prepared for it.
All right.
So that's all I'll say about that.
And what was the third? Third item was
the
about
stuff, then Tommy, expectations for Tommy.
Oh, yeah. You want to take that too?
No,
okay.
Let you take that one.
Well, I do want to just make sure that our callers are aware. Jamie Gillen had some opportunities when he was in college to be a place kicker. So he is not totally foreign to doing kicks outside of the punting realm. So unlike maybe a bunch of punters who are in the league and have never kicked in college, he did some of that. So there is an opportunity for him to call on some of those experiences if he's in an emergency situation, albeit it did not work out very well on that one kick that they tried. All right, so that's just one item of background information. In terms of the punters and the coffin corner kicks that Dave Jennings perfected back in the 70s, that's not the style of most punters these days. Most punters are interested today, and this is the way they're trained, and you can't just tell a guy, now you're going to be a coffin corner punter. That's not the way it works. If Jeff Fiegels were back in here on the show, and of course he's now doing a bunch of real estate stuff, he retired from announcing, he would tell you it takes years to perfect coffin corner punting. Jamie Gillan, because of his Australian background, is a boomerang kick guy. He specializes in those international style kicks. To suddenly say to him, the stuff that you've been brought up with your whole life, and this is how you kick. You go for hang time, and you go for twists and turns and balls that will die inside the 10 or bounce backwards from inside the 10. Those are his styles of kicks. That's what he's been trained to do. You can't suddenly bring him in here and say, guess what? The boomerang style kicks, the knuckleball kicks, all that stuff that you've been doing, no. Now we're going to make you an old-fashioned 1970s coffin corner punter. And if there are any punters out there who understand what I'm talking about, because Fiegels has explained this to me time and time again, it's not that simple. It's like telling a fastball pitcher, now all of a sudden you have to throw a knuckleball. It's a big, big change. So what you do is you take that knuckleball pitcher, okay, and you know what he's got, and you try to hone it, refine it, and make that as good as it can be. You don't change him into something that he's not. So in terms of you're complaining about middle of the field stuff, well, yeah, you can angle it outside the numbers. That you can do. But to ask him to be a coffin corner guy, that's not going to happen. Because you're asking him to make too much of a dramatic change, which he's probably not capable of making without at least 2 or 3 years of scraping off all the paint and trying to rebuild him again as a brand new player. That's not going to happen. So you're being unreasonable is really what it comes down to. All right. Now, third question, Tommy DeVito. Tommy will not wilt. You'll agree with me on this. He will not wilt. The spotlight is not too hot for him, and he will not back down. He's a Jersey Italian. He's got gusto, okay? He's got a lot of oregano in his blood. I know, okay, because I'm one too. We don't back down. He will not back down, all right? He may not play great. He may not beat Tampa Bay, but he's going to give it one heck of a try, I guarantee you that. He will not let them intimidate him. Todd Bowles, bring your blitz. Go ahead, bring it. Tommy's going to stand up to you. He is not going to wilt. He's not going to cower.
Yeah, there's one thing you can not say about Tommy DeVito, and that is that he lacks confidence. He is 100% confident in himself, in his abilities. You know, whether that turns into results and production on the field Sunday, we'll have to wait and see. But that man believes that he is capable of being a starting NFL quarterback. I mean, he said as much last year as an undrafted rookie free agent playing for the first time. He made that abundantly clear that he feels like he belongs in the NFL and belongs to be on the field.
Well, we know he belongs on a 53 because he's here. Now the question
100%.
is, does he have a legitimate claim to potentially being a number 2 in 2025? Does he potentially have a high enough ceiling he could compete to be a bridge quarterback? Does he have a high enough ceiling to maybe be the starter next year? It's not for us to say today. He's got 7 games to show how much better he is in his second season. And if he just blows people away and winds up being as successful as Brock Purdy 2.0, who are we to put a ceiling on him?
For sure. I mean, again, last year as an undrafted rookie free agent, led the Giants to a 3-3 record in his 6 starts. Granted, he got a lot of help from the defense, but nonetheless, he was the starting quarterback that helped lead them to 3 straight wins and a 3-3 record in 6 games. So he's had another full year to develop, a full offseason to, get more comfortable with Brian Dable and Mike Kafka's system. I, for one, am just excited to see what he can do and see how he has grown from last year.
I'll say one thing. He's going to be happier with the receiving core he's got, and he's going to be really happy that he's got Tyrone Tracy in his backfield. And he's got a better offensive line than the Giants had last year, too.
That's, I think, most important.
So it's realistic to expect him to do better. How much better, I don't know. We go back to the phones. Brandon in New Jersey, you're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, guys. Paul, oh, my God. Why do you always do that? You always take everything to, the 10th power. What do you mean DeVito may be the next Brock Purdy? What are we talking about? Oh, why you always got to go to the extreme? That's
no. The point is, none of us know what his ceiling is. That's the point. None of us know what his ceiling is. He may not do well. These next 7 games, there's a chance he also does poorly. And he plays himself out of being a consideration into 2025. That's possible too. The point is, this is an open book. Everything right now is possible. And if you don't think that, then why bother watching the game?
I'm going to watch the game but Paul, we saw DeVito play. I know it's but we saw him play. So it's not like one of those things where it's it's an open book. We don't have anything from scratch. We saw him play. Okay, we hope he got better. I like Matt's standpoint. I hope he gets better. I hope he plays. I'm going to watch for that, right?
Well, realistically speaking, if you're trying to be, more about playing the percentages, realistically speaking, he's playing to be next year's number 2. Realistically. But could he do better than that? I don't want to look this guy in the eye and say you can't do better than that. Why would you do that to any competitor?
I say just start with a realistic standpoint. I just think the goal, Paul, I'm just saying for you, Paul, I listen to you all the time, and for you always start with the highest possible goal as opposed to just a baby step. Let's just see if you look better than last year. If you've
listened to the show all week, you've heard me talk about those baby steps. And today I'm simply saying, now that the kid is out here, let's give him the chance to prove what it is he can and cannot do.
Right.
That's the point.
All right, cool. I like it, Paul. All right,
it's okay. Go ahead.
Because I'm glad you guys changed the subject for the earlier point, because to me that's like when you have a coworker who hasn't really been doing it right for a long time, and then one day the managers, hey, can I talk to you? And then it's just one of those days. It sucks for everybody. So, all right, moving on. What do you think, since the bye week just passed and you guys had time to look at the team, hopefully, instead of all the I know you guys had a lot of busy news week, but I hope you had time to look at the team. Number one, what do you think can happen with these interceptions? What's happening here? And then number two, next year, one of the things I think that the team is missing is what they call matchup nightmare, right? Just somebody too big, too fast for their position and makes it hard to guard. On offense, I think we're I think Malik Neighbors is a good wide receiver, but he is a wide receiver. He's not a matchup nightmare. What do you think, what positions or anything like that in the draft do you think we could get a matchup nightmare? Where would you look? If running back didn't get us wins, would you try to put him at wide receiver, tight end? Where would you prefer? So those are, with the bye week, the defense, what can we do with Pitt? And then what do you guys prefer, as a matchup nightmare in the next year? So I can start looking. I'm looking.
Okay, Brandon. Thanks for the call. Thanks, care.
Brandon.
Which one you want first?
All right, I'll start with the first one. In terms of the lack of interceptions, honestly, I don't think either one of us can sit up here and give you a straight answer because, Jerome Henderson spoke this morning. And he literally has spoken every Friday or every other Friday has literally said, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. So I can't stand up here and tell you something that, I don't fully believe. I don't know. I think as we've seen, as recently as last year, takeaways on the defensive side of the ball typically come in bunches. So I wouldn't be surprised if whenever that next interception comes, the floodgates open up a little bit and then we start seeing more defensive takeaways. But for why they have not happened yet, I don't have a good answer for you there.
Two things the coaches have stressed this week. Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, talked about this. One is they want to get more passes deflected at the line. Now, we know the Giants' one interception this year was a deflection by Dexter Lawrence that Muasau was able to haul in against Minnesota as the team's only interception of the year. They are stressing, get your hands up. They want more deflections because deflections become anybody's ball. Okay? So that's one way they can maybe enhance their interception statistic. The other way is that they want more hand fighting at the point of the catch. Because right now what's happening is when the ball is coming down and these receivers are winning these 50-50 balls and they're catching these pinpoint throws, the Giants defensive backs are not doing a good enough job of getting their hands in there right at the point of the catch and either knocking more away or being able to deflect those and then make a play on the ball. Like in basketball, when you can tip drills for offensive rebounds, where you can tip the ball to yourself. The Giants have not done a good enough job hand fighting at the point of the catch. So that is something the coaches have noticed, and they're trying to get the guys to do this week as they go through the second half of the season. Those are two things that, by their very nature, when you get a ball bouncing up and bouncing around, you got a better chance to pick one off.
Yeah, definitely. I will say that, not always, but a lot of time, these some interceptions come from passes down the field, deep passes, right? The Giants have struggled to defend the deep pass this year.
Yeah.
I think I heard that the completion percentage on passes of 20-plus yards down the field is something like 70-something%, which is crazy to think about. That, what you just said, that's what they need to do, especially on those deep passes, because when you throw those deep passes and you get a hand up and knock the ball up, that is a lot of the time when it's easy for one of your teammates running there to have it land right in their breadbasket.
And by the way, bad timing to stop one of those 50-50 balls downfield because Mike Evans of the Buccaneers is one of the best 50-50 catchers that I've ever seen.
He is a great deep threat receiver, as we've seen for the last decade now.
And even though his average per catch is down some this year and he is slowing down a bit, he has a tremendous length, tremendous catch radius, very strong hands. 50-50 balls are 95-5 his. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And then for the second question that the caller brought up, I will start by saying I don't necessarily agree that the Giants don't have a matchup nightmare, because I think Malik Neighbors completely falls under that category. I mean, his physical skill set, Malik Neighbors, going back to before the draft, his player comp, or one of the player comps for him, was Jamar Chase. I don't know anyone that wouldn't consider Jamar Chase a matchup nightmare. And
that's true.
Malik Neighbors, he's not at that level yet. I'm not saying he is, but he has the same physical tools that Jamar Chase does. So I do think that he is a matchup nightmare. But if you want, I can give you one other matchup, someone I'd consider a matchup nightmare in this upcoming draft, which I believe was yesterday on the show. John and I briefly mentioned, or maybe it was Tuesday, but the wide receiver from Arizona, who is projected to be a top 10 pick. I'm blanking on his name.
Tet McMillan.
What is it?
Tet McMillan.
Tet McMillan.
Yes.
So says the voice from the closet.
Yes, John.
He's 6'5", Paul.
I was going to say, he is 6'5", like 215 pounds.
Skyscraper.
Paul's dream wide receiver. That guy is, I guess, what you consider your prototypical matchup nightmare. So keep an eye on him, Arizona wide receiver.
From hobby farmers to weekend gardeners and everyone in between, Tractor Supply trusts 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to make shopping more personal. Together, we're connecting over 2,200 stores with 5G business internet and powering AI so team members can match shoppers with products faster.
You're all set.
This is enriching customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
All right, there you go. Rich, you're next on BBKL. Hello. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome, Paul, Godfather, and Matt. First of all, happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
You too, Rich.
Families. And I want to just pass my thanks to DJ for his service for 6 years. He throughout the ups and downs, and he wasn't given a lot of support early on, and throughout this whole 6-year process, he took all the barbs and the New York media and the fans, and he handled everything with absolute class, highlighted by his statement yesterday, which I thought was totally classy. And kudos to the Giants leadership, the way they allowed him to go, not denigrating him at all. Once a Giant, always a Giant. And I go back over 60 years, and I like the way that this whole thing was handled. It's tough. No one likes to see anybody losing their job, for certainly. But it's a production. It's a results-oriented business, and the sad thing from a fan's perspective and from a football ops perspective is, remember what Ernie Accorsi always used to say, and George Young too. You miss on a quarterback in the first round, and you're going to set your franchise back 10 years. And I'm not throwing any barbs here, but unfortunately, that's what happened. So hopefully, with the Paisan there coming in this week, it's going to be really fun to watch. Everybody stays healthy, and we'll see what Tommy can do. They got nothing to lose. So anyway, it's kind of a tough day. Not as bad as the same Huff trade, if you remember that. That was awful, 64.
Understood, Rich.
Yeah. So anyway, kudos to the Giants. Nothing but the best for Daniel. I hope he gets with a contender, but please, Lord, not the Eagles.
I see what you did
right?
there.
No, amen.
Okay.
All right, you guys have a great Thanksgiving.
You got it, Rich.
too,
Enjoy
Rich.
your turkey. Thank you so much for calling in again. Yeah, it's the nature of pro sports that no matter how classy, how respectful, how professional an athlete was, many, many, many times, even after the most successful of careers, the ending is a little sticky. It's not what you want it to be. Sometimes it's even worse than that. And that's just the nature of how athletics are. You can never guarantee when you get into pro sports and you land with a team that your entire duration of your career is going to go smooth and rosy, and that your exit's going to be the same way. Michael Strahan was very, very fortunate that he could walk out after winning a Super Bowl with the same team and never suit up for anyone else.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think given this situation, just looking at quarterback situations, honestly, across the NFL and across the last couple of decades, just makes you appreciate what Eli Manning was able to do here.
Very few quarterbacks in the last 20 years have had 5 or more years and then only played with one team.
What Eli did was, we knew it at the time, but what Eli did truly was special.
He was an outlier.
Yeah,
he really
certainly
was.
An outlier. That is not the norm, especially in today's NFL.
So, and by the way, if you didn't catch it the other day, I believe it was on Wednesday, Eli Manning did make the list of 25 modern era semifinalists on the ballot for this year's Hall of Fame. It will get cut down to 15, then to 10, then to 7, and then they must pick between 3 and 5 from that final group to get into this year's class. And folks, I've been full throttle on this like a freight train. Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. And I certainly hope he's the only quarterback who is on that list right now. There's no other quarterback who has made the final 25 to this point, or this round of 25, if you will. That may make it a little bit easier, because this way when those voters debate, they don't have anyone to compare him to. It's just him on his own merit. And you know what? That should be enough to get him in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Eli is a semifinalist. Coach Coughlin is a semifinalist in his category.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, would I love to see them both get inducted together. That would talk
be
about
awesome.
special. That would be special. One quick injury update.
What do we have?
From the Bucs. Tyke Smith has been ruled out.
Ooh, the nickelback.
Yep, Todd Bowles ruled him out, while starting left tackle Tristan Wirfs is expected to be a game-time decision. He hurt his knee the last time they took the field in Week 10.
Yeah.
They had the bye week.
He was limited this week.
He's been limited, apparently, from reports from Tampa Bay, wearing a big brace on his knee. Coach Bowles said he will be a game-time decision.
I'm sure Baker Mayfield's a little bit nervous about that, knowing that Brian Burns will be coming off of that edge.
Oh, yeah, because Tristan Wirf's backup, Justin School, I believe. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Not overly impressive.
I'm just going to say big step down from Tristan Wirfs.
Yes.
The three-time Pro Bowl tackle, while his backup has, I believe, one of the highest, if not the highest, pressure rate allowed of any Bucs offensive lineman this season. Oh, I have the next-gen stat here. 4.4% sack rate allowed, and that is the highest of any offensive lineman in the NFL with at least 150 pass blocking snaps. So
okay.
If Wirfs is unable to go, that could mean a big game from Brian Burns.
Or if he's
or
gimpy.
Kayvon or Aziz.
Let's say he goes and he's gimpy.
That's true.
And Brian Burns, who has a really good first step, that could be a big factor.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, 201-939-4513. Here's our phone number on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Giants and Bucs, 1 o'clock. In fact, that's a CBS game. I got to see Tiki Barber in the lunchroom today. He and Jason McCourty and Andrew Catalan will be broadcasting that game on TV. It's one of those weird games where CBS, which primarily does AFC games, has a crossover game this week. And they'll have the NFC game between the Giants and the Bucs. Always good to see Tiki, who, by the way, and I don't know if we're going to get a chance at some point to get him on the huddle. I did have a chance to chat with him about Tyrone Tracy, and he is extremely impressed with the running back skills that this guy shows despite starting his collegiate career as a wide receiver. He said, Paul, the way he sees things and then makes that move and hits that hole and shows the exact timing that you need when you cut it upfield. Tiki was very, very impressed. He was like, I can't believe he was a receiver because he shows running back instincts. All right, we go back to the phones. Sean in Pennsylvania, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, a quick question. Obviously, Giants fans since 1980, grew up in New York City watching them. Why are we talked about like we are so much of a laughing stock? I know obviously I'm not talking to Yachts, but the communication on TV, media, everybody's talking about everything was so disrespectful the way they handled the Daniel Jones thing. And before that, how they handled the Saquon Barkley thing. Our GM is way over his head. Our coach still not a coach. And it's just a repeated affair. What do y'all think the Giants need to do to prove to the fans, the people that don't get to go to the stadium, the people that pay for the NFL ticket, that we are better than what people say us to be?
Well, Sean, that's easy. You just got to win games. When you win games, it quiets everything. They say wins are the best Band-Aid for every wound. So that's an easy answer. The other answer to the first part of what you said, it's easy and it's lazy and it's a way to get out frustration to kick somebody when they're down. And that's human nature, unfortunately.
Not only that, but we play in the biggest market in the country. Yeah. And as we've seen throughout any New York sports team, if one of the New York sports teams is struggling, the national media loves to pile on them. Just like when a New York sports team is doing really well, one of the best feelings walking around New York, you'll see fans wearing, the shirts of that team everywhere you look. So it's a double-edged sword, unfortunately. It comes with the territory.
Anything else, Sean?
Yeah, this last question, and obviously y'all might not know the answer, and obviously there's a lot of talk everywhere about it. If the Giants have the opportunity, I prefer the Giants to win. I prefer Tommy DeVito to play good on Sunday, and obviously definitely good on Thursday because you're going to have, Turkey Day, everybody watching that TV.
I know, especially against the rival Cowboys.
Yes, I want them to destroy them. If any game they win, that game I want them to win. But that's another story. But do you believe the narrative that's out there that the Giants will not draft a black quarterback? Do y'all believe that? Because that's a narrative constantly out there.
Don't believe that for 1 second, Sean.
Not in the slightest bit.
Look, regardless of the Giants or any franchise, a team that has been stuck with a losing record for most of the past decade will do anything they can do to win and to get better players to somehow crawl out of this quicksand. That goes for any team in any sport. When you have had this much frustration, you're not putting barriers or limitations onto any good player. That just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. None.
Not only that, but let's not forget that viral clip from Hard Knocks that for the last however many months everyone's loved to post. Brian Dable talking about how trade anything to move up for Jaden Daniels. Unfortunately, Commanders weren't willing to talk, as we can see why with the success Jaden Daniels has had. So, no, I do not believe that false narrative, even in the tiniest, slightest bit. That is a bunch of BS.
All right. Now that we got that out of the way, 201-939-4513. Got a few minutes left on the program. Before we get to a final phone call, if you guys do want to still ring in, thought about this game. Again, looking at the Buccaneers, now they've had, during their losing streak, some very difficult losses. They've played a gauntlet of opponents. Let's not forget the fact that Kansas City in overtime, they lost the flip. And you knew as soon as they lost the flip, Mahomes was going to beat them. I mean, that was
as we've seen time and time again with Patrick Mahomes.
That game was over with the coin flip.
No, their schedule was crazy.
But, well, yeah, Pearson, they've lost to the Ravens, they've lost to the Falcons, Chiefs, and 49ers during this 4-game skid. And the Falcons, depending upon what week, they've kind of been a little up and down.
And their other two losses also before the 4-game losing streak, Falcons and the Broncos look great right now.
So
those are 6 or 5 pretty good teams.
One could make a case, especially with this offense and the passing attack that Baker Mayfield has been able to implement, even though, by the way, we haven't even mentioned the fact that Chris Godwin is out. He's got an ankle injury. He's done for the season. We haven't even mentioned that. And how Otten, their tight end, has now become their top dog receiver with what's his face? Evans being out for 3 weeks because of a hammy. So, and Sterling Shepard's there too. So, truthfully, they're probably one of the most dangerous 4-6 teams that you'd want to run into.
Yeah, I mean, I know they've lost the last 4 games, and that's, the thing that everyone is going to focus on. But the first 6 games of the season when they started 4-2, especially their first 3 wins, were against the Washington Commanders in the week 1, who they beat by 17. Week 2, they went to Detroit and beat the Lions, who were potentially the best team in the NFL right now. And then in week 4, they manhandled the Philadelphia Eagles, beat them 33-16. So, yes, they are a 4-6. That is their record. You are what your record says you are. But this is just about as talented of a 4-6 team as you'll ever see.
Make something clear. You're going to have to score some points if you're going to beat them.
Oh, yeah.
They're not. Okay, they're not going to get involved in a, 3 carries and a cloud of rubber pellets kind of game. That's not what they do. They are going to try to have this game go and march up and down the field, and they're going to tell the Giants, you've been an offensively challenged team. Try to keep up with us. That's the way they're going to play it.
Yeah, their last 7 games, the lowest point total they've had is 20, and that was against the 49ers defense the week before the bye. Prior to that, the 7 games, 33, 30, 51, 31, 26, 24, 20. And those last 2, again, 20 against the 49ers and 24 against the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a elite defense.
A couple of numbers just to cap this conversation. Baker Mayfield twice has thrown 4 touchdown passes in a game this season, and they've got a 68% red zone percentage in terms of touchdown percentage in the red zone. That's 3rd in the NFL. They get points, folks.
And their biggest red zone threat is now back on the field this week in Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, yes.
Which Adam Schefter actually just posted a tweet. This is a quote from Todd Bowles just now about Mike Evans and his playing time this week. Word for word, we'll play him as long as he's healthy and fresh. If he needs to be in there, he'll be in there, but we'll get him out when we have to, which goes back to what we were saying. He's coming back from a hamstring injury. Not realistic to expect him to play 190% of the snaps.
Yeah.
But you better believe when they get when they get into the red zone, Mike Evans will be on the field.
He will be there, and he will try to take advantage of a young and growing Tay Banks, who has had some trouble dealing with receivers who have been very crafty, to say the least, and use their experience to their benefit against him.
He has had more success, though, against the bigger physical guys.
Well, because he is physical.
Yeah, we saw him in Week 5 in that Seahawks game that the Giants won.
DK Metcalf.
He did a very good job of limiting DK Metcalf.
Shut him down.
And they're not the same receiver, DK and Mike Evans, but they're both big physical guys.
For one, I am very interested to see how much Tay Banks grows in this second half of this season, because he's been getting hammered, in some cases a little bit unfairly, but in some cases justifiably in the first half of the season. He's gone through growing pains. Now that he had his break, I would really love to see him clean up some of that stuff and finish this season strong, so that going into next year, people don't have to be talking about, well, we're not sure about him. I don't want to see that for his sake.
Yeah, these last 7 games are big for a lot of the young players, but Tay Banks certainly one of them.
By the way, Bucky Irving, the rookie, almost 500 yards rushing. So
second leading rookie rusher behind Tyrone Tracy.
He's nothing to sneeze at.
No,
we should not ignore him.
He is good.
He and Tyrone Tracy both averaging just over 5 yards a carry, which is impressive. Bob in West Orange, you're last on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to ask a quick question. Maybe you can help me understand this. You watch the interviews with Shane Bowden and Dable, and they come up and they say since preseason the same thing, and now they're week 10, the team is 2-8. You hear the same thing, like missed tackles, technique. These are pro football players, right, making millions of dollars. How many weeks does a pro football player miss tackles, miss assignment, miss gap filling, and miss blocks? Do you think this is a talent issue, or I can't listen, to be honest. It gets hard to listen to after a while. Like, all they do is make one excuse after the other. Like, they go up, and as fans, I'm telling you, it's frustrating, not just me. It's like, how many weeks are you going to keep saying, technique, this gap assignment, this tackle? The guy makes $7 million a year. Make the tackle.
Bob, I'm glad you asked the question, because this is a problem that is really an epidemic proportions around the league. The Giants have 72 missed tackles this year, according to Sports Radar, which is 8th most in the NFL. The Buccaneers have 70 missed tackles, which is tied for 10th most in the National Football League. Now, what it comes down to is this. Because of the CBA and the limited on-field practices and the limited contact that these guys can put the players through, there are restrictions. There's only so much you can do to enhance tackling technique, because you don't have the ability to use repetition. The labor union, the CBA laws within the NFL will not let you do that. So you try to get as creative as you can without having full gauge tackling exhibitions to try to get guys to do it. You're using a donut. You're using a tackling dummy. You're using they got a new one now, which is it's a solo tackling sled that they're tackling. I mean, it's the nature of what this game has become. All the rules in the NFL for the last 20-something years, and Matt, I may be dating you a tad here, but they're all geared to offense. You know this.
Yep. 100%.
All the rules are geared to offense. They've done everything they can to emasculate defensive players in this league. So you have epidemic problems in terms of missed tackles. And that right now is just frustrating beyond belief to anybody who understands the old NFL and has to watch this stuff. But it is what it is. So my answer to you is, to some degree, you have to accept it, because that's the evolution of the game. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean guys can't focus more, guys can't try to, concentrate better, guys can't try to wrap up better. You always have to try to do better. Every one of us wants to try to do better at what we do. But at the same time, the evolution of the game has kind of taken some of the teeth out of that bite.
Yeah, the only thing I will add is that if you look at the Giants' run D on an actual play-by-play basis, play-by-play, the unit you would think would be doing a lot better. The thing that has been killing them is that there have been 2, maybe 3 plays a game where opponents have been able to gash them for a humongous run. I'm talking 30, 40, 50-plus yards, And that is why the Giants' season rushing defense numbers look as poor as they do. On an actual play-by-play basis, most of the time, the Giants are doing a good job. They're just getting killed by those 2 to 3 plays a game. And I promise you, and we heard this from Brian Dable, we've heard this from Shane Bowen throughout the season, they are working on it. This is something that they are working on every single week, as much as they can. They are trying to do better and eliminate those 2 to 3 big plays a game. And, if they are able to succeed in eliminating those 2 to 3 big plays a game, then by the time the season ends, those numbers won't look as poorly as they do right now.
All right, folks, a reminder, the Giants Huddle podcast going up in just a short while. Pearson's going to hit the button. You'll get the preview of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Giants season ticket memberships are still available. I know there's still half a season to go. Giants.com/tickets. Also, Giants TV is the official Giants streaming app. It's free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. We will be back on Sunday with the pregame show beginning at 11 a.m. on WFAN. 2-hour pregame on the radio. Kickoff against the Bucs at MetLife Stadium is at 1 o'clock. 2-hour WFAN postgame show, as well as the 1-hour MSG postgame live show. For Matt Citak, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you next Monday on Big Blue Kickoff Live. So long, everybody.
With Kroger brand products, you can get all of your favorite things this holiday season. Because our proven quality products come at exceptionally low prices. And with a money-back quality guarantee, every dish is sure to be a favorite. From sweet sugar cookies and holiday ham to that perfect slice of pie. Whether you shop delivery, pickup, or in-store, Kroger brand has all your favorite things. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Hate has been winning for too long. It's at an all-time high. And too many people are facing too much hate all over this country. To turn the tide, we have to stand together. As a united team, we can change the momentum. It's time to take a time out against hate. Visit standuptoallhate.org to help. Join us in calling for a hashtag timeout against hate by following @What'sUpWithHate or posting the blue square emoji.